Coming to you from the studios of Magic Broadcasting on Laird. This is the Kramer Show. This is the Kramer Show. The phone is now open, and the phone operators are standing by. Turn down your radio when you call. Pay attention and be ready to go. 850-233-9988.
Let's do a show! Let's do a show right now. What are we doing?
This is Kramer.
7:06. Welcome to it. Today is February the 19th. Joining us, again, you can find him on Tuesdays and Thursdays on the program, 7 to 8. Scott Major of Major Paruas and the Storm Help Team. Their website address, stormhelpteam.org. Over the past many months, Scott has given out so much valuable information. He will tell you if you're going to correspond with the insurance companies or anyone else for that matter to end it with love and kisses you. Ladies and gentlemen, love and kisses you, founder Scott Major.
Hey, pal.
What's going on, my friend? How are you?
I love the clapping. Great stuff.
well,
it's packed. It's packed in the radio station. I mean, there are thousands inside, stuffed in to listen to this show.
Oh, you know it, sir. With all the information that you give, there's a darn good reason. So, there are tons and tons of questions that you get, and I'm sure every time we get one on the phone on the air, you always know exact. I think you know the answer before anybody's even done with their question. I had several calls last week of people with legal questions, and I told them to call the 844-800-LAWS number. Here's the deal: if you don't use Scott Major, he will still answer and help you, which is the beauty behind this thing. And when you call the show, you will get on the air and you can ask him anything you need. Where would you like to?
People have called.
Sorry.
A zillion people have called, and we have given unbelievable amounts of information out, just for, education purposes and to help people, get their claims, processed. So it's not about just retaining the services. It's also about getting some good intel. And as you and I know, so many people, once they talk to me or talk to our team, they realize that there's so much more they could do, and they end up improving the value of their lives and their claim by getting that information they need.
Well, I mean, if you're armed with the information, things are much, much easier. The problem is that the average person walking around does not know the legalities behind all this. This is a big deal. There's a lot going on around here. There's a lot to, there's a lot to understand. I cannot believe that we've been talking about this for 4 months, and every time, every day I learned something new about how to deal with an insurance company, how to deal with a mortgage company, bad faith, so much. There's so much going on.
There's no doubt about it, and I'll tell you that as you've learned through the times, this is a complicated area that you really, really need to have some intelligence, and you really need to understand some of the nuances that are associated with this. I mean, you and I have talked about this, whether or not you're, just processing your claim, or whether the insurance company has responded to you and you don't know what to do next. If I were at this point in time, I would make sure, if I were a listener, do I have my own detailed estimate? In other words, not the insurance company estimate, but do I have my own estimate of damages to ensure that all of my damages have been seen, shown, documented, and to the insurance company? I would ask myself, what has the insurance company done on their side to tell me how much damages I have? And if the insurance company has told me that I have damages, have they paid what they called their undisputed damages? In other words, if whatever they've told you is damaged, however amount it is, even if it's not enough, have they paid that amount? And if they haven't, I need to let them know that they need to pay me that amount. If I do not have money and have not received responses from the insurance company, my next step is to say, what is going on with my claim? Is it closed and I don't know it? Why has there been a delay from the time that the field adjuster has gone out there or the time I've made a request and the time I'm receiving money? What is the delay? Whether I have a public adjuster representing me, or whether I'm doing this on my own, hasn't the insurance company paid me the amount of money that they are saying is due or that I'm saying is due? Those principal things are so critical to remind listeners about, because those are the fundamental underpinnings that make your claim strong and that create motivation, leverage against the insurance company in case they're going to continue now 4 months out not responding to your needs and giving you all the dollars you want. And it sets up this so-called bad faith or complaint process, which allows you to tell the insurance company, if you're not going to pay, there may be an additional penalty for you. Please honor your word that you put into a written contract called an insurance policy so that I can get on with my life. And finally, if I have qualified vendors helping me, what is the motivation for them to proceed at lightning speed? And what kind of problems do I face if they don't complete their work? Do I have terms in my contracts with my vendors that will ensure that they will complete the job in a timely fashion, that they're quality, licensed, insured, bonded type vendors that will enable me, if they don't do their job, to have some recourse? So those are great tools and, reframes to sort of understand, am I, as a listener, in that position right now, and am I doing those things? And if you are, you're in great shape, and if you're still not getting responses, then you need to have a professional, a lawyer involved to help in that process.
Scott Major on the line. Let's do David in Callaway. David, you're up with Scott Major. Go ahead, David.
Thank you. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
How you doing?
I would like to I need to set this up and then ask you the question. Back in December, we had a water mold mitigation company came in town. We hired them. They had machines that went bad in our house, put more water in the house than was probably ever there, and never came back to fix it, never gave me reports of what they found pre or post what they did. I've since had another company come in, and they found water in the walls and everything, exactly where it was. This company that never came back tried to file with my insurance company. I don't know if it's poetic justice or not, but the insurance company put about 5 different people on the check, to include the public adjuster, my mortgage company, SBA, and the water mold mitigation company. Is it within my right to void that check, send it back to my insurance company, and give them a letter of explanation, or how should I proceed?
Thank you for your question. When multiple people are on a check, they can only be on the check under certain circumstances. The first circumstance is that you have a contract with them. They are somehow authorized to represent you. Secondly, it relates to items which they helped you to make claim on. For example, a mortgage company cannot be on a check that's related to your contents, because it has nothing to do with the structure or the mortgage. The mortgage company cannot be on a check for your ALE, your loss of use, if you had to move out and you spent $400 in hotel bills. That is not an appropriate thing for the mortgage company to be on. So you have to look through and see, what are you asking for damages on, coverage A, B, C, and D. The next thing is, if there are valid reasons why somebody does not belong on a check, you absolutely can write the insurance company and explain that that person should not be on the check for the reasons which you explained or other reasons.
Well, my issue is that those checks were to pay that water mold mitigation company for the services they provided, because they charged my insurance company, and
okay, so
they still
so
have not fulfilled. I still don't have the first report from them.
Yes, in that scenario, you can write the insurance company, and you can tell them that these people did not provide proper service. My first line of attack, if I were you, would be to write the remediation company separately and explain to them about their defective work and that they need to clean up and fix the problem. And if they do not, you will be reporting them to the state and to the local authorities, because it is much better not to air your laundry with the insurance company until you absolutely have to. So step one would be to have them perform what they were supposed to perform so that you could go through and decide what you want to do. Then once they've completed what they're supposed to do, you can still then write the insurance company and tell the insurance company that they shouldn't be on the check. But that would be my first order of business. The second thing would be to let them know that they need to write you a letter saying that they will not be on the check so that you do not take action against them. And then you could get the check reissued and pay them when they're completed if they do the job properly and fix it. So to me, you have to be cautious about complaining to the insurance company that the vendor you selected was not the best vendor, because it can hold up the insurance company to say, okay, we're going to do a separate investigation ourselves into this, and it's going to take some time, and they're not going to reissue a check. So that would be my process for how I would go about it strategically to maximize your recovery. Thanks for the call.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Scott. 850-233-9988. Let's take a break. When we get back, more of your questions. Again, things like that are happening everywhere. It seems like every day there's something going on. Somebody has a question like that. You can get on the air and ask Scott your question or questions. 850-233-9988. Be right back.
This is the Kramer Show, giving you information you can use during the recovery process of Hurricane Michael. More is coming next on NewsTalk at 101. The phone lines are open for you to sound off.
Sound off.
This place got a telephone.
850-233-9988.
Hello? Is it me you're looking for?
This is the Kramer Show on NewsTalk at 101.
Scott Major with us. Scott Major of Major Paruas and the Storm Help Team, stormhelpteam.org. Let's get Corey. Corey, you're up with Scott Major. Go ahead.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thanks for taking my call. My question, I guess, surrounded around, I had a second adjuster come out to my house. They met with my contractor. All that documentation, along with the structural engineering report, was submitted to the insurance company, who's been sitting on it. When I talk with the desk adjuster, they say they're waiting for many layers of approval because the policy, the estimates above my policy limits, to get approval to pay policy limits. Every time I inquire with the desk adjuster or talk with her yesterday, she can't give me any timelines of what the many layers mean or how many layers it goes through. And apparently they're a third-party adjuster that sends it to the carrier. I feel like I'm stuck and have no leverage. I contacted the CFO's office yesterday. They mentioned I have the potential to invoke mediation, or I have an appraisal clause in my policy. I just don't know what the next step is to try to get this resolved.
Sure. Thanks for your call. Some words come to mind when I hear things like this. The words I would use are ludicrous, lunacy, crazy, insanity, and other words which would probably take up most of the show. The reality is that you're entitled to be paid. There is no reason why they shouldn't be paying. There is when you were paying your premium, you were not able to tell them that you needed to speak to your spouse and to work with upper level management to determine when you could pay your premium, and that you would get back to them when you figured out the multiple layers of payment authority you needed in order to pay your premium. So they don't have the ability to do the same. There is no basis whatsoever. Let me repeat. There is no basis whatsoever for someone to use a delay tactic like, hey, we need to get further approvals. If you have the damages and you've documented them, they need to pay you. I don't know how many days have passed, but my feeling is that you have 3 or 4 options. Option number 1, which would be my favorite option, is to call up, get a lawyer involved, have them write a demand letter, and then probably your case will be over, or a lawsuit will be immediately filed, and then they'll be paying 1, 2, or 3 times the amount of the damages. Option number 2 is, you mentioned 2 terms that the listeners can get to. One is called mediation, and that is you can demand pre-suit mediation. There's actually a statute on it, 627.7015, which specifically talks about when you can get mediation. That is a non-binding way of sitting down at a table and talking about what you need to get. The disadvantage of that is it just gives them another 20, 30, 40 days to tell you that they're going to meet with you, and you sit down with them, and then they say, well, we're thinking about paying you, or we're not thinking about paying you. There's no binding requirement for them to pay you, so sitting down may or may not have any benefit to you. The other option is called appraisal. The benefit to appraisal is, think of it like an arbitration without all the fanfare. The benefit to that is that you can expeditiously, without having to get a lawyer or a court involved, you can mandate that there's a binding procedure, and you have to hire at your own expense an appraiser, and then they hire an appraiser, and within 30, 60 days, they will meet and they will come up with a conclusion as to how much money you're paid. The advantage is that will be a faster process, and it will be binding. The disadvantage is if they determine amongst your appraiser and their appraiser that you're entitled to 1/2 of the limits, then you have no legal remedies whatsoever, and you will have to accept whatever money they agree to. If they do not agree, these 2 appraisers, then they will hire a third person, or the court will appoint one, and that will be the loss. The benefit is you will have a faster remedy. The disadvantage is you could get less than your policy limits. So my recommendation to you in your scenario, if you want to maximize your dollars, if it was me or my family, I would hire a firm like ours, or whoever it is you want. I would hire a law firm that has the knowledge to go ahead and immediately write a demand letter, even if you give up a small percentage of what you are going to get out of your coverage limits, and maximize your ability to get your money right now and scare them enough to where they know that waiting will cause a lawsuit and then cause them to have to pay you, plus the lawyers, plus their own lawyers, and perhaps suffer additional damages. That would be my recommendation to you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah,
sure. Feel free to call if you just want to, get some information from us and decide on your own what you want to do. We're happy to give you much more information on appraisal, mediation, options, writing a letter yourself, buying them donuts, getting all kinds of help, whatever you like.
All right, thanks so much.
Sure, man. Be well.
Yeah, that appraisal process, that one right there, I can't see that without an attorney that one really is going to benefit the policy holder.
If you have, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Kramer. I apologize.
No, that's the gist. I don't see. Go ahead. What were you saying?
I was just going to say that it is a bit arbitrary. In that sense that you hire your own so-called appraiser, and they're hiring their own, and the guy who's working for the insurance company probably does all these claims for the insurance company. Yeah, he or she doesn't have a high motivation to find full limits and pay out when that would be their worst case scenario anyway. So what's the downside to that appraiser saying, hey, I'm not going to pay you all $200. I'm just going to say $150. And then what's the worst can happen is somebody will overrule me, but not likely. It is a good methodology if you have some sort of clearly undisputed situation. Let's say in that gentleman's case, he didn't have a house left. It was like Mexico Beach where there was absolutely no house there. Then an appraisal might work because it's so obvious that nobody's going to be able to really rebut that. But if you just have a lot of damage to your house, people can make these marginal arguments about whether or not there was prior problems with it and what really caused the problem, and did you fill out your application correctly, and all kinds of crazy things to delay. That's why I think that people grossly underestimate or are just ignorant of how powerful a lawyer can be. When I file a suit, remember, every day they wait, I'm charging them attorney's fees. So now they have to pay your entire coverage limit plus tens of thousands of dollars to the lawyer. The irony I tell people is sometimes when you sue, it's actually cheaper because the lawyer gets paid by the insurance company. You end up being made whole in some of those situations.
Well, and I think, too, the time of that scenario is much better because you have leverage. And leverage seems to be coming up, that word, a lot. And if you don't have any leverage, meaning an attorney or somebody that is, is really going to stick it, on the other end, then we're up on a break. There's more to come. We're going to take some more phone calls, too, next. All right? Stand by. Scott Major.
Sure.
The Kramer Show will be back in a sec on NewsTalk at 101. This is Kramer.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
NewsTalk at 101.
1, 2, 3.
Scott Major is with us this morning. Scott Major of Major Paruas and the Storm Help Team. Stormhelpteam.org, the website address. We were just going over, this last gentleman's phone call, and I just wanted to point out a couple of things about that. You can get an attorney, you can do mediation, and then go through an appraisal. Now, mediation, I guess my question about that is, when is that the right option?
So mediation is a non-binding procedure. So in other words, what that means is that neither party is required to agree to anything, and there's nothing binding about the process. But it can be helpful when you're trying to resolve what you think are fairly clearly undisputed situations where, it really is about a number. In other words, you have clear damages. Everybody agrees the roof is destroyed, but you have some differences of opinion about how much it should cost to replace that roof. Or if you're just looking for a quick settlement and you recognize that you might be willing to compromise to take less money, then mediation can be a good possibility for you. But otherwise, mediation will be ordered by a court once you file suit. So if you don't elect mediation pre-suit, certainly a good lawyer who's helping you will mediate that dispute once the suit is filed, and you're in a better position where now the insurance company has to realize that if they keep litigating, that it's going to cost them more money for their lawyer and perhaps for your lawyer. So it provides an ample motivation for a business, a profit-oriented business such as an insurance company. It provides a motive of, if you don't pay, there is some penalty. There is, no ticky, no washy. You get a particular motivation for the insurance company to say, hey, I really, really need to make sure that I'm sure of my position as the insurance company, or I'm going to have to pay more.
Earlier, we were talking about the list of damages. That would, it would seem to me that you might want to get somebody to help on that front. Is that something that people normally do?
What is that? I'm sorry.
In other words, your list of damages, you were talking about that a little bit earlier. Is it important to, in other words, I guess my question is, how do you, if you don't have a specific list of the damages, the average person's not going to know. They're not going to know exactly everything that's going on within their home.
Sure.
So don't you think that it's worth it to get somebody to? Sorry, I'm forming this question as I go. I just want to be sure. I just want to be sure that Sorry.
That people. I get what you're saying, Kramer. Yes, the answer is you got to know what all your damages are, and you got to know how to articulate them. And people who have done this for a living, having seen thousands of these claims, we know what you need to put in such a list and how to determine whether there are problems. I mean, sometimes people look at their windows, they don't know that they're not damaged, or they don't realize how to look at a window and determine whether it's damaged. We can help them with that, or the various contents. Let's say you have shoes and clothes and carpet and furniture and other things. We can give you an inventory list, like a special chart, and then you go through that chart and you check all the boxes of the things that are damaged, and then we show you how to get proper estimates for replacement so that you can submit that, whether you're doing it yourself or with us, for, to ensure, I guess is the best way to say it, that you cover all of your damages. Remember, every listener should be very cautious to make sure they cover every damage so that later on you don't have a problem. If you don't get your windows checked and verified, and a year and a half from now you start having some window leakage, the insurance company is surely going to tell you that's not storm-related. You should have brought it up earlier, and now you have some sort of defense of a defect in the way the window was installed, or whatever claims that they make. They're going to say, why didn't you take the time to make sure that you checked out this window? You can't just wait till you see visible signs. So all of these things, this is so important for people. This is your home. This is your business. This is your life. You need to make sure you've covered all of your damages so that you don't have later claims. Later on, your roof's leaking and you don't fix the insulation inside, or you have, support beams that are not checked, or your ceiling doesn't look wet, but then when you go into your attic, you find out that there are problems and wetness there. It's going to show up a year or two from now. So all those things are so important to make sure that you have thoroughly checked out and documented.
Should you base any of your list on what the insurance company actually says? Because I'm thinking, if you own a home and the insurance company adjuster comes out there and he makes his little list, I think you should just ignore it. I think you should just, go about, do it, see what you see, and get your reports from, anybody that you want, and make your own list. I don't think it should be based off what the insurance company necessarily says during the, the initial part. I wouldn't assume.
Well, here's a great technique. So say the insurance company says you have roof damage and you're in need of a roof replacement, and they are quoting you $15,000 to replace your roof, and it's going to cost $30,000, you can say to your insurance company, thank you so much for agreeing that my roof is destroyed and has to be replaced. I have done some research and can't find a vendor to fix it for less than $30,000. Please provide me with a list of each and every vendor that you're aware of that will come out and fix my house for $15,000.
Oh, wow.
That kisses you. And I'll tell you that you will be surprised at how fast that number will go up. I mean, certainly insurance company, you're not trying to commit a fraud. You're certainly not trying to grossly underbid something. You would never do that.
Of course not.
You're the good hands people. So what you do is you can take their estimates and use them as a weapon of mass destruction, the new WMD, and them.
What do they do in that case, Scott? I mean, like, if you were to do that, what would they do? What would they say?
All the time I do this, and I either get somebody call me on the phone, the desk level person, and say, "What was your lowest estimate you got? 29? Okay, we'll write you that check."
Oh man, really?
Almost every time they pay what's supposed to be paid. Because imagine if I take their deposition and I videotape them and I say, "Look into the camera and tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, because this is going to be played in front of a jury, tell them exactly how many people will fix my client's and your client's roof for $15,000. What was that? None? Well, but you quoted that $15,000 was going to be the replacement cost. I'm sure you have loads of vendors.
Wow.
You do this, you have millions of claims, and you wouldn't believe how quickly those cases are settled.
Oh, that's a huge tip right there, bud. That's huge.
That's why, getting lawyers who do this all the time is huge. This is your life. Why not take it seriously? You want to have the surgeon who's done 4,000 eye operations to do your eye operation? Or do you want some guy down the street or the guy who's on a gypsy boat who comes and says, hey, I'm the lawyer here. Let me handle your claim. I'm really good at this. I mean, this is your life, and you need to protect it. We've done nothing, you and I, over the last 4 months, but try to educate people that knowledge is power, and getting the best experts involved is worth it. I mean, this is a serious thing, and every listener, every churchgoer, every single business owner, every single person on your block needs to be getting the best possible people to go out and take care of these things. And I'll tell you, when I sue on these cases, it's amazing how quickly they come to the table. One of the things that listeners should understand is when you think of a lawyer, and you think of us, for example, suing, this is not some often long process. Sometimes we file suit and they come running and say, listen, we need to pay you now because otherwise you're going to charge us tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees. We'll go ahead and pay you the claim because it's more expensive for us to pay our own lawyer and to pay you. So there's lots of leverage tools out there to help your listeners maximize their claims. And they're crazy not to take advantage of it. It's time now. You and I have talked about it. We're trying to do everything we can to help people, and this is the way to help people.
To get in touch with Scott off the air, 844-800-LAWS. That's his number. Write it down. Put it in your phone. 844-800-LAWS, LAWS. And the website is stormhelpteam.org. And again, leverage. It's about leverage. And if you're, I've said this seriously. I feel like a broken record. People here have not really had to deal with anything this, big,
exactly.
This major before. So a lot of people don't really know how to get things going, and they really don't. I think you know what? I'll tell you this too. I don't think people know their rights. I think
you're right.
The average person here just doesn't know.
You're right.
And that's the thing. That's what's scary is that you don't know what your rights are. You also expect that your insurance company is just going to do the right thing, and that you've done business with them, you paid the premium. Here it is, a claim. They're gonna come over. Oh, look, they came out and they told you about $30,000 less than what you really thought. But that's how business is done, and so there's really nothing that you can do, and there's not really a course of action for you to take. But you're wrong, and I think that's I still think that there are a lot of people out there that really have. It's not that they're stupid. I'm not trying to insult anyone's intelligence. I just think that it's just not known. I don't think the knowledge has been out there, and that's one great thing about having you on. I think people are shocked at sometimes to hear some of the things that you bring up.
I think you're right, and I think that let's not even be nefarious about it. Let's assume that all insurance companies are great. It's not even about whether insurance company is good or bad. It's about you need to get paid all of the money that you contracted for. And unfortunately, with the nature of these situations, insurance companies may not act as promptly as they should, whether there's good reason for them to do that or bad. I only care about the insured making sure they get paid. The business owner, the temple or churchgoer, the individual, the renter, the homeowner getting all the money they deserve. Whether or not it's the insurance company's fault, whether they're good or bad, I don't care. What I do care about is don't wait any longer. What I do care about is suits work. What I do care about is that if I can create leverage, at least whatever number you're going to get will be a reasonable number that is based on what the policy covers and doesn't cover. At least you'll know what is really covered. Just sending in an estimate saying you got a lot of damage and not knowing that half of it is excluded under the policy doesn't serve you any purpose, and in fact can make you more upset because you think you're entitled to some money and somebody hasn't looked at your policy first to determine that you're really not entitled to that because you didn't buy the right coverage or you weren't sold the right coverage. And then we have to talk to the insurance agent. So all of this is about knowledge and power and making sure that you take advantage of the opportunities that are in front of you, and that includes getting the right counsel who's going to say, hey, I'm fighting for you. You and I talked about this. We deeply care about people. We're doing everything we can to empower them. You don't want to hire me? Go hire your mother, your sister, your favorite lawyer, whoever it is. but you need to take action with someone who's intelligent and who can leverage your claim and get you the most money.
How important is correspondence?
I personally think it's the most important thing in the processing, because just imagine you're a juror. If you're a listener and you were a juror and somebody said, I called the insurance company a bunch of times and they told me this and I told them that, and they say, no, that didn't occur, or some of the tape recordings are lost, versus you say, I wrote the insurance company 12 times. Here's the 12 letters. In the letters, I wrote them and said, listen, if you can provide me with a roofer who can do that roof for $15,000, please give me all the list of names of those people within 3 days. And they never did that. Imagine how angry you'd be as a juror and how quickly you would rule in my favor when there's a documented trail of you doing everything in your power to give them all the information. If you'd written them and said to them, hey, listen, if you need anything more, tell me, and they didn't write you back and tell you, and then they officially closed your claim, or they still didn't pay you, or like the gentleman who was just on the phone, they're just saying we got to talk to their mother and their mother's mother and their sister and the cousin and the third distant cousin to find out whether there's authority, to some magical people. I'm telling you, it is so powerful. And it's also powerful when you file a complaint with the state. It's also powerful when you go to their supervisors and say, I've written 12 letters. Tell me where I'm wrong, insurance company. Nobody has told me I'm wrong, or I'm using your own estimate to show you that you're wrong. I'm just saying that these are such big weapons. And if you haven't been writing, then write a big piece of correspondence now that explains all the 27 calls you've made over all that time. Go pull your cell phone bills, sit down and write that letter out and explain. And when people say things to you, when you repeat that, if the field adjuster came out and said, oh, your house is totally destroyed, and use the exact language, it's pretty powerful. If you were a juror and you put something in quotes, you tend to believe it. So those things are huge.
All right, got to take a break. More with Scott, and you got 10 minutes. You should take advantage of having him on the air, getting on the air. 850-233-9988. 850-233-9988. We'll get some calls. More with Scott Major next.
Five, four, three, two, one.
We'll be back right after these important messages. This is the Kramer Show on NewsTalk at 101.
The Kramer Show. Scott Major with us. Let's go to Danny, who has a question for Scott Major. Hello, Danny.
Hey, Kramer. How you doing, bud?
Hey, bud.
I want to talk about loss of use. After the initial adjuster came out to our house, he wrote down everything, and then about 2 or 3 weeks later, we called him up and said, hey, we need some money to try to find us a place to live. He said, well, would $10,000 help? And we said, of course it would help. So they sent us a check. We put it in. This is in November. Of course, we've been keeping all of our receipts, all of our rent receipts, all our food receipts, all our other receipts, heaters, dehumidifiers and stuff. My wife has put them on a spreadsheet, sent all this stuff to them. Didn't get any response. She called them, and the guy says, well, I've got these receipts here, but I don't understand what these 3 $500 receipts are for. Well, we tried to explain to him on the phone, they're for rent. We had to pay rent in order to live someplace because we can't live in our house. Then he told us, of course, he won't give us any money for the food expenses because our kitchen was kind of ruined and we had to go out and eat a lot. We grill here at the house, but we do go out and eat some. Dehumidifiers that we got for the house, heaters that we got for the house because our air conditioning system and the heater's not working. So we got some heaters for the house, and they've just ignored us. Now, she sent it to him the second time, said this is our second request on this, and we haven't received a call back from him in 3 weeks. I just wonder what our steps should be now in order to get that loss of use, because in my opinion, that loss of use is our money, not theirs. Other things they might be able to keep, but we need some money, or we'd like to have some money to be able to live on while we're trying to get our house repaired. So what's the steps to do in order to get the money from them for the loss of use or additional living expense, whatever word you want to use?
Sure. Thanks very much for the question.
Okay.
That is your money. You are entitled to it. My recommendation would be, if I were you at this, 4-month period, I would pick up a phone and call a lawyer, whether it's the 844-800 laws or your favorite lawyer, and I would get them involved and have them write a demand letter that says, if you don't pay immediately, we will be instituting a lawsuit. This is absurd and ridiculous, and I don't need to wait on you honoring your own word and your own contract. Option number 2, you can report them to the state under 624.155. You can file a complaint with the state, which is a bad faith notice explaining that you have provided them with undisputed evidence and they have not responded and refused to respond. And then they will have 30 days to respond to that. But my recommendation is, if you want the money now, you got to get, the right generals, the right army, the right ammunition, and that would be to get a top lawyer involved who's going to get you that money, either on a phone call or it's going to tell them that if you're not going to pay this money immediately, then what's going to happen is you're going to spend way more money defending this and then still have to pay. It's time for people like you and other people to recognize that the insurance company is delaying day by day in this situation maliciously, delaying for no good reason except maybe for their own benefit or to earn interest, because there is a zero reason for them not to pay you unless you've exhausted all of your loss of use coverage, which you obviously haven't in the scenario you told me. Call a lawyer, get them involved immediately, have them write a demand letter an hour from now, and then I think you'll find you'll get paid very quickly, or the insurance company will be paying a lot more money to you later.
Do I need to come into an office to show them all the pieces of paper, or can I talk to you over the phone, or how much information, or where do I need to go do it?
Okay, so if you hire a lawyer, like we have an office on 433 Harrison, so you can go there, or you can do it by email. We're very, very digital. We're totally paperless, so we can do it digitally if you want. We can do it on the phone. We can do it in person. We can come to your house. Our job is to serve you and reduce your stress and try to arm you with the rights that you deserve and to get you the money as quickly as possible. So if offline you dial the 844-800 laws number and you just tell them, listen, I need some help, this is what I need, they'll immediately respond. They'll have somebody speaking to you today if you want, or meeting with you today if you want, or tomorrow, or whenever is most convenient for you. And let's get a fire under the butts of this insurance company and get you for money.
Scott Major from Major Paruas, 844-800-LAWS, stormhelpteam.org. A fantastic hour. Thank you so much, Scott.
Hey, thanks for having me, and thank you for everything you do for the community. Really appreciate it.
You're the best. I'll talk to you soon, pal.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Folks, this man, he is the king.
The Kramer Show will